Hold on. Okay.
Great.
Listen, we recording in progress. I'm getting ready to do the whole introduction again. Y'all, if y'all just bear with us. Plus, we have Peter who just came on, so Peter didn't hear it, so we got to do it for Peter. So, listen, thank you again so much for joining us. I am Dr. Carla Cook, and I am here with my co-hosts, Queen Ekanem and Elston Mumford, and we are talking about finding home. And so, what I was saying is that I think about the Wizard of Oz. And I think about that because the whole theme of the movie is about finding home. Dorothy is making a desperate attempt to find her way home. And along the way, she meets other people that are also trying to find their way home. So they don't do it alone, they do it together. So Dorothy is trying to find home as a physical location, but others are trying to find their way home based on what their needs are. One needs a brain, one needs courage, one needs a heart. But
Yeah.
just like they needed and were attempting to find their way home, all of us are always in that process of finding our way home. And I just want to really invite Queen to talk a little bit because just in the context of conversation, she began to think more deeply about this subject of finding home. And so, Queen, can you just talk a little bit about what prompted that idea, the thought, and just like feeling like there was a need to have this conversation?
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me? Just to be sure.
Yes.
Okay, so this topic, finding home, I think it came from a profound sense of isolation and emptiness. And now this is not from not having what I needed or what I wanted. I had all of this, but I just had this profound emptiness. The feeling was so overwhelming that I had lost the motivation to do anything. And it was one time at work. I was just working one time, and this sense of disconnectedness, detachment, it was just overcrowding my thought pattern. And it was so deep that I couldn't get myself to doing anything, absolutely. And I remember just thinking, I'm like, what's the worth of, having money? What's the worth of making so much money? You get your houses, you become so wealthy. I just thought about all of this. So to what end is everything? And not to say that these things don't matter, but it was so deep in my spirit that I was just thinking about it. And I remember that in the midst of all of that, I remember calling an old friend of mine, and we're just talking about sweet nothings, really. Just sharing. And this is someone that I shared similar values with. So we're just talking about nothing. We just had these very simple conversations that really, it wasn't anything that was about strategy or, working hard or anything. It was just a very normal conversation. And it was from that simplicity of that thought, that shared value and connectedness, I found, I found it very, I think I found that sense of strength from that conversation. It just revived my spirit at the time. And, at that initial point, I found comfort. I think the word is comfort. It was so comforting that I became energized to even get myself started again. I mean, and to think that there was nothing profound that we did in that space. It was just conversation. And now this just taught me something about connection. When you connect with someone and you have similar and shared values with them, and it has a potential to to revive your spirit, to energize you to do as much as you could never imagine. Yeah, this is where the thought about finding home came from. And I'm sure most of you here can actually connect to this feeling of finding home.
No, I love that. And even as you say that most of us could connect to this subject matter, if you're listening in, can you just drop a one in the chat? Like if you relate to what Queen was saying, having periods where maybe it felt disconnected and you had that existential question, like, wow, where really is home? Like just drop a one right in the chat. But that makes me think about, and I'll turn to Elson, it makes me think about like what does finding home like really mean to you personally or professionally?
Excellent question, and good day to everyone, whatever time zone you're in. Glad to have you with us. Also when we think about home, Queen Ekanem did a wonderful job when she's talking about the mental and what other things can we connect to or have triggers to that actually remind us of what it is we want. Even when we think about the physical home, that physical home gives us many opportunities. For example, when we walk through a kitchen or a dining room or a family room, those are places where we get a chance to engage. And sometimes some of the things that we're missing is the opportunity to engage with ourselves, engage with other friends, engage with partners, engage with friends, engage with families, but engage to do what? Engage to talk through things that we may need, whether there be something of difficulty, whether we need a strategy, whether it's something that we just overcome, or whether we just need strength and comfort. So those gives us the opportunities when we say, okay, what is home? Finding that place of comfort and strength through proper engagement.
I love that everything that you were saying, Elsa, and I was also thinking, and I alluded to this like when I was talking about the Wizard of Oz, and I was thinking like about what does it mean to find home professionally and personally. And I was thinking like personally for us, a lot of times finding home is just like finding that safety within ourselves, finding that confidence in ourselves, finding that belief within ourselves, finding um, feeling like a personal sense of agency. A lot of times we're looking for home, but we can't find home because we haven't found it within ourselves. Or we are in environments where home is there, right? Where it may be welcoming, it may be an environment that can meet your needs, but if we're not uh, integrated within ourselves, very often what happens is we perceive things, right? Because we can only take in based on what we perceive, right? So if we perceive it as a place that's threatening or a place that's cold or a place that's unwelcoming, then that's what it's going to be for us. So I do think when we have the conversation about finding home, a lot of it is to begin to look within, to look at ourselves, to look,
Absolutely.
yeah, to look at what's happening for me or in me, and not in a blaming way or not in a condemnation way, but in a way, are there still aspects to who I am that I am developing so that I feel like I fit, I feel like I belong, and I feel like I've found home.
Right. You know something, Dr. Carla, that's very good because even with the same with the analogy that I just used with the physical home, the opposite could be the same. Sometimes when things are unkept, when we find ourselves feeling neglect. Why? Because there are some areas that we've neglected in the home physically, but there's also things we neglect with our own selves personally. We neglect uh spiritual upkeep. We neglect that mental upkeep. For example, sometimes we don't give attention to our bodies when we say, you know what, it's time to rest. Let me pull back. So that neglect, all of a sudden, with that neglect, it begins to shift and tear down. Things look unkept. We forget the beauty of what it could really be. But here's the wonderful thing: we can change that. So if it's something that you're seeing or for something that you're experiencing and you don't like it, don't get mad,
Mm.
just simply change it. Make the necessary steps to pull back, make the alterations, redesign, renovate, reconnect, and you'll find your place just as wonderfully as you imagine it could be. And that's home.
And yeah, just adding to what you have just said, I mean, this is so profound because I was just even going to say, like, home is safety. When you're talking about home, you're like, where is this safe place? It's within you. And it's where you feel comfortable, that sense of acceptance. Because if you do not have that feeling of home, it's going to be difficult for you to thrive. You know what it means for you to walk into just having that imagination. Just picture it. You walk into a place and it's in this array. How do you feel? Do you feel like, how do you feel energized? Do you feel empowered? And then you walk into a place that is so calm, you know, it's exactly where you love to be. Because I mean, calm is relative to, if it's the relative from a person to a person, but how does that make you feel? So home is, it's not a physical location, it's beyond a physical location. It's that place where you feel that sense of safety, comfort, and you know that in this space I can thrive. So it cuts across, it cuts across different spaces and time, really.
It's interesting. I love, again, I just having this thought about the fact that there's a reality that so often we are in groups of people, we're in communities, we may be at work, we may be in our family, we may be in churches, we're in the crowd, but
Mm.
there's such a sense of aloneness. Does
Yeah.
anyone, like, can anybody relate to that? If you can ever relate, if you can relate to that, just go ahead, drop a one right in the chat that I relate to it. And I'm kind of thinking about the fact that it's interesting that everybody has the same experience, right? So, what do you think, just in terms of like creating the community? What is our responsibility? Like, what do we bring to the table? If we're all in these environments where we're feeling a sense of aloneness, and I guess I'm thinking about, are we the change agents? Um, how do we begin to shift atmospheres? And how do we begin to thrive even within those settings? Any thoughts about that?
I'm happy to take it. So first of all, let's talk about community, right? That is where community comes to, this is where we get to spotlight community. First of all, what is community? What does community do for you? Community helps with validation. It helps with when you have shared values. When speaking about community, community doesn't have to be such a big word. It's that connection. It's still home because home is connected to home and connection. Now, I was trying to explain something. All of us, we all eat food, right? You see what it means when you mix. How do you get ice cream? Egg and milk gives you ice cream. That's the connection of something. With the words that we are now speaking, we're talking now, we are communicating. We have to add is words that is bringing out these sentences, the phrases. These are connections. So you're talking about community here. Community is what really helps for productivity. Human beings are social beings. We do not thrive alone. We need people. We need that connection to be productive. You, I mean, we can all see that when we work as a team, most of us work in organizations, and we can compare when we are working on our own and when we are working with others. There are strengths you have that somebody else does not have, and there are weaknesses you have that someone else doesn't have. But a mixture of that, you're holding someone together, and it helps you to produce better. And not just producing better, but there's sustainability in that. And that's the power of community. When there is no community, there's a lot of isolation. And I was even just talking like, now it's going to be Christmas soon. I mean, Christmas is around the corner. And everybody's just looking to share time with loved ones. In other cities where, I mean, the weather, changes, like, where you get to have winter, the very cold areas, it's so cold that you need that sense of connection, because that feeling of isolation just has a way of, when it creeps into you, it just makes you begin to you know struggle with productivity. And I imagine everybody on this call can relate to it. So community helps you with that sense of self-esteem. It helps you with your identity. It also helps you with, it takes away self-doubt, and it also, like, it really helps with productivity. So community is just, is what every human being needs, and it cannot be overemphasized. Thank you.
Well, that was great sharing and great wisdom. And also, when I think about community, I also think again, when we think about a physical household or a family, one of the things that we want to remember is that awareness. With awareness comes from with that self-esteem comes from knowing where your place is, knowing how you fit. And growing up, we all had chores. So if you knew the value of your chores, mom, dad gave you chores to do what? So you can be included in the makeup of the household. Now, many times we push back from those chores because we weren't aware of how valuable. In other words, we weren't so aware of our significance. We weren't aware that we could be spectacular in the little that we're doing. And by participating or doing our chores or finding our place, that actually helps remove the loneliness, the isolation. Why? Because you feel apart. You realize that whether it's just sweeping the floor or just being present or just contributing a smile, that helps the community. Everyone on this call right here is significant in some way. Sometimes we're unaware of what our contribution is, but once you're aware of that contribution, you, yes, you, helps build the community. Therefore, you destroy that isolation by finding home.
I love that in terms of looking at like ourselves. What do we bring into the community? And so I want to come back and double back on that and double click on that. But I was also having this thought about sometimes what gets difficult, like when we're talking about community, we're talking about social environments. And
Mhm.
sometimes what gets difficult is that we want a particular community to be all things. We go into certain environments and we're looking for all of our needs to be met. Sometimes this happens just even in one-on-one relationships, right? It's kind of like, oh, I meet this person and I want this person to fulfill everything for me. And so sometimes when we're in community and we have the perspective that, like, I need all of my needs met, sometimes that's just not going to be realistic. And sometimes it's a certain aspect of the community that's fulfilling certain of our needs. So this may be a community like here. This may be a learning environment that helps me to challenge myself, to think more deeply, to share my thoughts, to grow. But I may not get that in another community that I'm in. But that doesn't make a different community less valuable. So in another community, I may get just more like mindless kind of relaxation, laughter, fun, right? But if I'm the deep friend, like I'm always looking to be deep, like in that community, I'm gonna feel like, oh, that's not my spot, that's not my home, right? If I don't have a value or a sense that in this community, that's not what I'm here for. And I think Elson, even as you kind of talked about like what can I contribute then? So therefore, I don't necessarily try to change the community, right? To become something different, but I add to it, as you were talking about, based on that piece of me or that part of me. So I think that's so important as well. Um, but can we, man, just like double click on what you were talking about, Elson, and this is for Queen or Elson, either one of you. Like,
Absolutely. So,
how
so,
do we
so,
be? Let me ask the question. Wait, let me ask the question. No, you already know what I'm double clicking on, or you could just restate it so we're all
well,
on the same
Well,
page.
I wanted to add what you just shared was so valuable that I wanted to add to it because
Yes, go ahead.
yeah, because what you're describing is understanding and being aware of the function of each room or each community. See, if we were in a home, a kitchen has a different function or environment versus the bathroom. The
Mhm.
bathroom has a different function or environment versus the bedroom. So when we think about the contribution, it is also our responsibility to understand the function or the environment of that particular community or that particular room. And that will also help us break that isolation, break the place of being alone. Because understanding the function and also understanding our contribution will actually cause us to grow and expand and have a greater desire to want to contribute more.
No, I mean,
And
you definitely. Oh,
yeah.
go ahead, Queen. Go ahead.
Yeah, and even just speaking about that community, it comes with shared values, right? You can't just say you can't just walk into any place and feel like this is home. I mean, a place can be a home to one person, but and then it's not a home to another person. And this has nothing to do with the home. It just has something to do with your unique self, right? And so it's like when we choose professions, some people are lawyers, some are psychologists, some are engineers or everything. It's about your expertise. This is where you belong. So you first of all, it comes with identifying where your strength is, where do you fit best, and who has those similar things as you, who shares those similar traits that you have. And so this is what helps you with thriving. So it's not just saying, oh, I need to have a community, or I need to be friends with someone. You need to be friends with someone that you share the same values with. That really helps. And even if it's not, like, it depends on how do you blend well. Because it's like, if I decide to add, I'm not trying to see like musical notes, right? Music sounds beautiful to the ears when the notes are matched in properly. You're matching the right notes together. But when you're matching the wrong notes, I mean, I'm sure no one wants to hear that terrible song, right? So this is what community is. One thing is finding that community and then having to be in the right community where you fit in and the other person you're forming a community with fits in as well. I just wanted to add that to, yeah, the sense of community.
That's so good because really, that really answers the question, like, how do we begin to cultivate a community that meets our needs? And like all
Hmm.
of the different things that you were outlining, that really speaks to that. Um, and I guess I was thinking a little bit about like identifying the community that meets our needs. Sometimes it does take coming outside of ourselves, like
Yeah.
making sure that we step in the room, like you all are here today. If we never step in the room, we're not going to cultivate community. And so often, like there's hurt or there's disappointment or there's prior experience that sometimes prevents us um, from doing what needs to be done to get in the room. We get disillusioned. Like, could anybody ever say, like, I've been disillusioned? So I've decided that community is not for me. And so I do think it's like having the risk taking, like some qualities, some personal qualities are about risk taking, that I could take risks, that I can be vulnerable. And it's okay to be able to sit through what doesn't feel comfortable for me rather than getting up, like I go to a certain community and because I don't feel comfortable with strangers, I leave like prematurely. And so I never really begin to see that this was a place that I really could fit. So I think, really what you were saying, Queen, and what I'm thinking about is doing an inventory, right? Some of the things that you talked about are like actual like skill sets, like, what do I bring? What area for me? What are our common interests, right? And some things are also soft skills or personal qualities. Like, what is my ability to tolerate discomfort? What is my ability to open myself to become more trusting or to get out of my comfort zone? Are also ways that we begin to cultivate these communities or a community. I see Elston. I know Elston is over there. Elston always has 1,000 ideas. So go right ahead, sir.
Uh, no, Dr. Cook, I was just listening to you, and which brought up another point when we talk about vulnerability. Uh, when does vulnerability also become our responsibility? In other words, our willingness to walk into a place of discomfort, because many times we resist discomfort, failing to realize that that's a growth opportunity. Um, so At what time do we get to the point where we say, you know what, I want to expand my capacity by walking into a place that I'm not used to, but I'm willing to grow in? So, what would you say to that, Queen?
So first, let's speaking about vulnerability first. You, if you are not vulnerable, vulnerability brings trust, first of all. Because when one is vulnerable to, why do I feel like everyone is frozen? Okay. When you're vulnerable, it brings trust, right? And it helps for deep connection. Just like when Dr. Carla said, there are sometimes she could go to a place and then she just doesn't feel that sense of connection and she would just feel the need to leave, right? These are things that are born from that deep sense of connection with something, because when you connect, it brings out the human side of you. When you're vulnerable, it brings out the human side of you. Now people can connect to who you are, and it shows your true sense of self. I mean, I know like we're in a society where women would tend to be more, when it comes to sharing their feelings and everything, there's that part where there's the masculinity part of not sharing, as per you need to man up and everything. But it doesn't exactly help most of the time when it comes to mental health concerns, right? And then vulnerability, when you're able to really like speak to who you are, be authentic to yourself, and share your experiences and whatever it is. Take for example, before we started this conversation, I talked about what finding home was, and it was a personal experience that I had that led to this thought of community. And now this is something that it helps for connection. Having this conversation now, I'm sure everybody can feel like, oh, I connect to this, I connect to that. As against, acting like, oh, I don't experience things like this. No, I'm not that kind of person. I have all my things together. I'm so strong, I'm pumped. But it's different. Now, if you have that sort of attitude to life, and when you're having conversations with people, it's so superficial that it tends to draw people away from you, sort of, because they're like, wow, this person has their life all figured out. I don't know where I can connect. I don't know if this person has anything that connects to me. And now they try to be protective of themselves. But when you come in and you're like, this is how I live, this is what happens to me, and this is how I walk through it. Now people can connect you because they can actually identify with what you're speaking about. So that, thank you very much. Shaki just said vulnerability builds trust. So it does build trust. It helps for that deeper connection. Like, it makes your relationship more meaningful. It's like when like husbands and wives or people in a relationship that are dating, right? If you're with someone who just always have, you're with someone who never really shows their weakness, and I mean they're always strong, because there's no human being that is absolutely 100%. Everything rests on another thing. Take concrete and steel. One is good for compression. Concrete has its own benefits, steel has its own benefits, and they need two of, when you use concrete and steel together, you can get the perfect blend that you need. And it comes with every other thing in the world. Nothing stands alone. The water you drink, hydrogen, is a mixture of several other elements. And these things, why are these elements needed to be joined together? They are joined together because one has a weakness that the other one has a strength that covers it or that overshadows it. So you need this. And so when you come up and you're like, oh, you don't show, I mean, you hold on to your personal experiences, for example, or you try to show that maybe you're like everything and there's nothing about you that is weak, or you show like you have it all figured out and covered up, people can't connect to you. Now that already like separates that thing of sense of community and connection, because now people are going to be like, okay, I need someone I can connect to. I need someone I can speak to that connects to what I'm saying. We always go to where we connect to. And this is the thing about connection. When you're looking for something, ideally, you want to find someone that connects to it. When you're in a workspace, you're in church, why do we pick something? Even the outfit you wear, there are different styles, different brands. Some people wear certain styles because they connect to that styles. Other people don't wear those styles, not because those styles are bad, but because it's that connection. But the connection comes from something. So everything is all intertwined. Vulnerability would help bring trust, deepen that relationship. Now you have something to talk about. you have a weakness, I have a strength, I have a strength, you have a weakness. A mixture of those, what does that bring? So this is my thought for building communities and like building authentic communities and being able to connect with people, because without this, it's just going to be superficial. I don't know if that helps.
No, I'm just kind of thinking about Queen, how you're talking and really the impression, like the passion around the fact that everybody needs a community,
Yeah.
that we need to have other people. And I think about, and I know not everybody may follow the Bible, but everyone knows about it. But one of the things that it talks about is like two is better than one. Like we're better in community. If one person falls, you have another person to pick you up. And I think sometimes we just find, I guess I was also thinking that there's also reality that sometimes we do find ourselves in periods of isolation. Or sometimes we've been in community and we then realize, wow, I'm in community, but this is not my community. I had that experience more recently, or that's been like one area that I've been at where I think because I'm a very open person, I'm a friendly person, I talk to a lot of people, and then it occurred to me that even though I've made this my community, right? And in some ways, I don't, there's still not that I don't fit, right? But I don't belong. There is not a sense of belonging, or it's not reciprocal. And so I guess I'm thinking that maybe there are people who are on who are just kind of like, I hear everything that you're saying, but I just don't feel like I fit. I just don't feel like I found my space, and I'm taking in everything that you have said. But I guess I'm just wondering for you guys, like, how have you been able to navigate that space when you just haven't found your community, or you're in community, but you feel like you don't fit?
Can I just call someone to speak since we're waiting? Dr. Obong, do you want to speak? Do you want to turn on your mic and speak? Okay, so I don't know if you can hear me or if he's there. But do you want me to go on that while we wait for someone? If anybody wants to speak on this, please feel free to raise your hands or put it in the comments, and then we let you have the room. It's meant to be a collaborative conversation. We need to hear your views and know what you think. So feel free to share your thought and just let us know when you want to share any thought.
Or
But
just press unmute.
yeah, yeah,
You can talk.
yeah, yeah. So even just speaking about that, like I was saying that water is a mixture of hydrogen and oxygen, right? That's a mixture of something that gives you another thing. If you're mixing, I don't know if you can mix, you can't, if you mix carbon and oxygen, you can have water. And that's the thing when something fits properly. I mean, sometimes you might fit into a place, but it doesn't mean that place is for you. And that's the thing about the sense of belonging. And that's where it comes with you knowing who you are, having that sense of awareness of who you are, who your person is. Because if you do not know yourself, first of all, you wouldn't even know what home you need to be in, or you wouldn't even be able to find that home. So it comes first with knowing yourself. It also comes with, I mean, I'm sure everybody here loves ice cream, like I used it earlier. You cannot mix egg and water and get ice cream. It has to be egg and milk. I mean, with every other kind of delicacies that you would naturally like make, you can't mix different things and think that they would give you a particular thing. They have to match. They are different things, but they fit perfectly when they are together. And it's same thing with syllables, same thing with words and everything else. So first of all, it comes from knowing where you, like being aware of who you are, where you fit, your sense of value, and then your connections. And I mean, um, some people can relate to this. It's like being in a different country. The culture is different. It's different from the culture you're used to. But there are definitely people who share the same value as you. They might not have the same color of skin. So this doesn't even have to be from where you're from, your tribe, or anything. It's bigger than that because humanity is wide. Connection is broad. This like it cuts across race, it cuts across professional backgrounds, it cuts across a lot of things, cultures. You could find someone who has a totally different culture connecting with someone else who has a different culture as well. So this comes with having that sense of awareness. When you have a sense of awareness, then you know where you fit. So you first have to work on who am I? Who are you? Know yourself, know the things you like, know what your values are. You need to identify all of these things for you to be able to identify your community. So it's very important that you're in the right community.
Can I say something?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so I just want to kind of respond to your question. By the way, my name is Felicia. I'm at work, so I'm not going to talk long. Um, so I think that for me, when I kind of assess my life and assess who I am as a person, I have always been, since I was a little girl, very isolated, very quiet, very to myself. And that has impacted my relationships with people. It has impacted my self-esteem, feeling like I can't be social or feeling like, I don't fit in nowhere. And it has always caused me to feel like, I'm the center of attention, but I'm not the center of attention, like kind of feeling like isolated from a lot of group activities. I don't fit in well with groups. So I just always had this really, and I'm glad that you're talking about this, but I always had this really this distant place in the world wherever I was. It just I didn't fit in, and I just kind of adapted to it, and I felt like being having a relationship with God has really helped me to say, maybe I just live my life and do what the Lord tell me, and then hopefully pray that He call me out of here one day in the future after I get everything done, and get in heaven because I just don't fit in this world, But I always felt like that, and I never really until this day, until we talk about it right now, I never really put a finger to it until we were talking about it just now. How I just didn't fit in, and it just I just kind of accepted it and I can be social and I can have one-on-one conversations, but it was always this nudge in my heart that just made me feel like I never fit in. I was always different, even as a child, I was always different. So I don't know. It's just me.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Dr. Cloud, do you want? Okay, I see you're already
No, I
ready.
was just going to ask you, Felicia, like, do you feel like you want to fit? Like you want community or you need community?
I don't know. I feel like part of me feels like I'm so different from everybody that I don't want it. But another part of me feels like I want it because I want to know what it feels like to fit in. Um, because I never felt like complete in that area. Um, but I kind of want to, I enjoy one-on-one conversations, but when I get in groups, I'm just like very like in the corner somewhere hiding. But I never knew what it was like. So it just became a norm for me.
I think, thank you so much for sharing that, Felicia. And I think that kind of goes back to one of the things that I was talking about. Sometimes it becomes normalized because we never have it. We don't look for it again, and we don't have the expectation that we're going to get it. It hasn't been a comfortable place, and it hasn't been like a soft place to land or anything that has been edifying. So, and for some of us, it is more challenging and it is more difficult, to find that place, to find that community. I'm going to continue, but I also want to recognize, and I just am wondering, did you notice like Frank, thank you so much for that support. Like Frank put up a heart. I'm not sure if you noticed that.
For me,
Yeah, did you notice that?
I didn't notice
Yeah.
it.
See, because sometimes and again, it kind of goes back to when we don't have the expectation that we're going to be embraced. And this is not just for you, Felicia, this is for all of us. When we don't have the expectation, it's almost as if we create what we expect. You mentioned the Bible, so you remember Job, what I feared, I created. And so sometimes and it's not as though we don't fit, right? Like we really haven't fit, but sometimes we come to environments where there might be space for us, but we don't notice it, like the heart, right? So I think we have to also open ourselves and look for, I may not fit into this whole community, but there's aspects of the community I fit in. There's parts of this community that are embracing me. And then I also think to not give up, like to continue trying and so that we can all have that experience because there's so much value to being able to be loners and be with ourselves. Like some people can never do that. Right, so they're missing that piece, but then there's also that value of what I can gain from community, and so to be able to experience that is a gift as well.
And I just wanted to say that, I mean, sometimes solitude can be, it can be necessary. It is necessary sometimes for you to spend some time alone, to recalibrate, to put your thoughts together, and just to even get to know yourself. But when you have it for a prolonged period of time, then it's it's now needs to be, that's when you need to worry about it. That's the point where you need to reconnect, because as humans we are social beings, and that can be taken from us. Like we there's this energy, we connect to energies. So when you're all by yourself for too long, you need to, you need others to feel you. It's like I think there's this thing that is often said, I don't remember how the quote is. You 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 get to desire as far as your eyes can see. Yes, I don't know how that is said, but as far as your eyes can see, there's so many things that we didn't realize existed and that we needed until we saw it, right? And that's also what happens when you connect, when you're with other people. Sometimes when you connect with people, you get to see some things, and it just widens your imagination. So we need that sense of, we need to, we need to intentionally work towards building that community, connecting with the people. And yeah, it also comes with, when it comes to connection, it comes with it's a shared thing. It's like you're meeting someone at a point. You have to come here and meet me, and then I come here and meet you. So it's a middle ground. But it only becomes challenging when that person isn't meeting you at that middle ground. Now you're having to exert so much energy and putting all the work, and at that point you just start feeling drained. And I mean, that in that sort of space, you don't need to try too much. You have to now find who connects best with you and who you relate with better.
Elsa, can you share some thoughts and just give
Yeah,
some feedback? Yeah.
first, especially to Felicia, I wanted to say thank you for sharing. That's number one. But I also wanted to also let you know that bring to your awareness that was significant because your willingness to be vulnerable just as you were, that exposes and displays significance. And again, we all need your significance to build overall in our community. Uh, Going back to the illustration I used earlier, all chores are needed in a household. We may think that, even as a little child, just picking up your shoes is not as significant as dad bringing in, the mainstream. But no, every little bit is significant. Why? Because it builds overall. It brings comfort, it brings strength. So I want you to give yourself kudos on that, because that was good bravery, that was significant, and we appreciate you. You are significant.
Thank you.
So, I'm looking at the time. Queen, were you going to say something? Go ahead.
This is Nicole
Oh,
Montfort. How are you all? I wanted to say, first of all, Felicia, that was wonderful. I love how you said you didn't know if you wanted to be in community, but I also love how you said, but you were interested enough to see what it's like to be in community. And I guess for me, I was thinking, because when my husband and we met, I was very introverted. I'm still introverted, extrovert. But but I always think too, when you think about community, it's not necessarily for me, it's not the number or the amount that's within your community that pours into you, because you can be in a general setting where you're associated with those in a particular group setting, whatever situation is, whether it's church, your job, whatever the situation is. But then you still have an intimate group of individuals that you go to when you need to be poured into, or they may come to you for you to be poured into. So that's how I kind of look at it. My grandmother used to say all the time, you only have about 3 people that's real close to you. Everybody else are associates, or you can count it on one hand. And so that's kind of how I look at it too. I'm very observant. And you kind of look at how people move, not in judgment, but just because you want to protect your space and who you are. So you may only have 2 or 3 people within your small community that you really pour into or love on. And then everybody else outside that, they're on the outer side of that intimate community that you have set up with those you have established as your personal private community, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. As we were just speaking, Nicole, I was just thinking about, the word quality and quantity just came in. I'm like, absolute point, because it's not about the number of people you have in that community. It's about even if it's just that one person that is pouring the right energy into you. So you don't, like the circle of friends these days, then when we're younger, we just wanted to have more people in our spaces and all. But as we get to experience life in a broader space, you realize that it's even if it's just that one person, if it's just that one person that gives you what you need, that is your community.
that's beautiful. Um, I don't know, Queen, Elston, anyone else on, if anyone before we end, if you wanted to say something, we just want to make space for that. So here's the space. We also, Felicia, were you going to share something?
I was debating.
Go ahead.
I was just thinking, like, I'm really glad that I listened in, because like you kind of highlighted something that I didn't really pay attention to, but I knew it was like the elephant in the room that I always ignored. Um, it is a vulnerable thing for me because not many people understand it, and it's hard.
Yeah. But also notice, Felicia, and I think this is what Elston was saying, that you are a gift. And Elson, what you were saying is your function. And perhaps the other thing that has been overlooked is that the gift that you are in groups, that, you're going to say the hard thing. You're going to speak the truth that needs to be in the room. And, we came here for community today, and you added everyone, your presence is felt. Everyone that's on this live added value, and your voice added value today. So thank you. Thank you, Frank. This is a very rich conversation. I'm so glad um, that you are in the room and that you added value and that you shared. Listen, we want to invite you all to stay connected in community with us, and we're just asking that you would make a commitment to come back and join us. We've made a commitment that we're going to stick with this for at least 6 months, and then we're going to see where it goes from there. And so we're asking that you would, you know, make the commitment that you're going to be in community with us for, well, now 5 more months. Um, and I think the other thing that we really just wanted, you can drop it in the chat or you can come off of mute and speak it. But if there's something, a topic in particular that you're like really interested in, if you want to talk more about this area, if you could let us know, that would be excellent. And Karen, thank you for thanking Felicia. Hopefully you saw that in the chat, Felicia. But thank you.
Let me check the chat out.
Yeah, thank you, Karen, for that. So any thoughts about is there an area that you would want to hear more about? The series is called Sanity series. So it's really about what makes us sane, what makes us whole, what makes us show up in the world, how do we continue to grow and be better and go further? What is it that we need? Are there areas that, that you don't talk about that you wish, man, I wish I had somebody to talk to this about that you would want us to discuss? Shakir said, I'm going to absolutely make the commitment. I also have others that would like to invite to benefit hearing the conversation. Awesome. Thank you, Shakir. Any WhatsApp community, Frank was asking, any WhatsApp community page on this series that we can join? That's a good thought, Frank. I mean, that's something to consider. um, to add the WhatsApp Sanity series WhatsApp page to this. So maybe we could take that back, Queen and Elston, and we can let you know. If you
Indeed.
want to, I think everybody that's on is connected with somebody, right? Knows somebody, so that we can make sure to get the information out for when we're going to hold this next time. Everybody knows your people on.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Felicia, I want to make the commitment once a month, right? Yes, once a month. Thank you. We need you in the room.
Yeah. Well, Dr. Carla, I definitely want to say while we're waiting for others to comment, um, first I want to say thank you all for allowing us all to collaborate. Dr. Carla, we really, really appreciate your expertise and your value as a global psychologist and all that you do and your contribution. You're definitely significant. Queen, thank you so much for your contribution and all that you do. You're definitely significant in what you do. You have great heart, great meaning, and you actually put it into action. But I also want to thank our community right here, right now, today, because all of us have shown up. We've actually helped each other today. We've shown significance. We've all done our chores, and that makes a happy home. So when we think about having that happy home, it's when we all contribute. Don't measure what's large, what's great. No, all of it is great. All of it is significance, and know that you're a part. So I thank you all for definitely sharing with us and bringing us home. Go ahead, Dr. Carla, Queen, back to you.
Thank you so much. Like that was so heartfelt. I mean, that was so hard. And I'm so happy that we had this conversation. It's so rich. Yes, like Frank said, it's so rich. It's such a shame that, we didn't have a lot of people joining as we wanted to. I think next time we're going to try to share the link more because a lot of people were like, "Oh, we don't know how to join through the flyer, the meeting code and everything." So yeah, but that's something I've taken note of when next. But yeah, I'm so happy. Felicia, thank you so much for sharing. That was, and then this is the thing about vulnerability. It's we all feel this way sometimes. This thing happens to, like, there's always a part of us that is the weak point, right? And this is what makes us human. We don't have it all figured out. And this helps when you are vulnerable like this, it reinforces somebody else's strength. Some other people might not be able to speak up like you. And this is a lot of bravery. Others might not be able to speak up like you, but it definitely can connect to what you're saying. And I know that it has inspired somebody else and it has empowered someone else as well. So thank you so much for sharing. And I'm so happy that everyone joined in on this conversation because I do know that someone took something back. There's definitely one thing you took back. And I mean, if you didn't take anything back, then there's something you would try to do better. But yeah, it's been yeah, it's amazing. I've been blessed listening to this. I've been so blessed. So thank you.
I'll just add my voice as we end, Teresa. I'm so glad that you're going to be back. I saw the hearts and the different reactions, and we just value you and we appreciate you. And we're so glad that you found your way home here on today. And we look forward to continuing the conversation, and we will get out the information for December. So have an amazing rest of the day or evening, wherever you may be. Hey, is anyone like in the room like so glad you were part of a global conversation?
Absolutely, because we're all going to say there's no place like home.
Absolutely. There's no place like home.
Well, click your heels together.
Do we have a virtual heel here?
What's
I'm just
that?
looking for a virtual heel so I can just click it up.
Oh yeah, we don't have a heel. We need a heel. We need a heel reaction. Hi,
Oh, I see it.
Nia. Glad you made it. Yeah, so we have in the room America, the continent of Africa, we have the UK, and so we're so glad that you were all represented. And we're going to see you next month.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Absolutely. All right.
Take care.
Bye. Bye, everyone.